I get shit done, I have fun, it's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.
Hello and welcome to The Business Renovator. Is your business a slave to growth rather than a master of profit? We're going to talk about that today with my guest. He has real life experience in and around that topic, and I'm looking forward to how he rose from the ashes. But before we get into that, if you're watching this live today, thank you for being here with us. And if you're catching us on the replay, remember, #replay. Let us know where you're watching us from. And if you got a nugget or two out of this or an idea for the show, share that with us as well. And remember, we're always looking to get new subscribers to our YouTube channel. So if you wouldn't mind helping us out in that area, that'd be fantastic. So are you a business owner, entrepreneur, sales leader? Do you have a question about business? Are you stuck somewhere? Well, I have some good news for you. Watch this. So if you ever have a question for around business, like I was asking before, reach out to me. Have a complimentary 20-minute session, no credit card required. We could talk about high-level things like time, team, money, exit strategy, or future strategy, either one. And if I don't have the answer to your question, guess what? I'm associated to a global network of other excellent coaches, and I'm sure one of us could help you and answer that question. Or if you know somebody else, pass it on. You can get hold of me at phil@coachphil.ca. So let's get on for the reason why we're here. I have an awesome individual here. He's actually a serial entrepreneur. He's a coach himself, consultant with 30 plus years of experience in starting, scaling, buying, and selling seven-figure businesses. He has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs scale their own businesses as a coach, business advisor, and a turnaround consultant. Jay is also the Executive VP of Chapters for the Global Leaders Organization, or GLO, and his job is to recruit chairs and start chapters worldwide. His story includes losing everything, yes, everything, it's in big, bold letters, after the 2010 financial crisis and rising from the ashes. With the Profit Architects and GLO, he has fulfilled his dream of spending every day hanging out with and helping entrepreneurs scale their companies and become better leaders. Join me today, and if you have questions for us along the way, pop them into the stream and we'll do our best to answer them for you. Join me as I'm going to pick his brain on serial entrepreneurialism and how he rose himself up from the ashes like a modern day phoenix. That's one of my favorite topics, by the way. Here he is, Jay Fairbrother. How are you, brother?
Hi, Phil. Happy to be here this morning.
Thanks for fitting us in your crazy schedule. I asked you this off camera, but I'm going to ask it on camera. So that is, what's the best thing that's happened, or what's one thing that's you're stoked about now?
So one of the things that happened recently is that we are having, with the Global Leaders Organization, we're going to have our first actual in-person summit and conference in the fall. And we've just confirmed that Elon Musk is going to be our keynote speaker for that. So we're stoked is a good word. We're pretty excited about that.
Yeah. Who is that guy? Yeah. He's a paradigm shifter, right?
Yeah. He knows a few things about building companies.
Yeah, a little bit. Anyway, we're not here to talk about him, but that is pretty fantastic news for you and GLO. So congratulations to you guys. That's fantastic. 30 years of experience, and you stubbed your toes and scraped your knees a few years ago and lost everything, right? So there's three things we talk about kind of on the show, and that's sales, marketing, and mental fitness. Some people call it mindset. And what I like about your story is it wasn't just a straight road without any potholes along the way. Many people perceive that success is, easy. Like if you look at the rock stars, they're the one-hit wonder or overnight success, right? But they don't see all of the things that people have done in the background, the adversity that they've gone through, the resiliency that they've created, experienced, and developed. I'm thinking that you're living proof of some of those things I've just said are part of the puzzles are pieces of the puzzle to success.
Yeah, I've had quite a few bumps. The Profit Architects is my 9th business in 30 years. And if you just quickly do that math, it shows number one, I have ADD and I usually own more than one business at a time. But I've also, had some decent success, but certainly my share of failures.
So how did you get started as an entrepreneur?
So I was had a nice cushy job in a major arts organization doing fundraising and membership, and I just was approached. I had also done some consulting around that while I was there, and I was approached by one of my consulting clients, and they basically said, we're doing an RFP to hire a company to come in and do this for us. And if you would ever consider leaving your cushy job and starting a company, we'd consider a proposal from you. So I didn't know what I was doing. And I wrote the proposal and started my company and financed it based on credit cards. And it was totally bootstrapped right from the start.
That's pretty interesting. Bootstrapping is one of my favorite ways to do things. Usually. So you must have had some raw talent that they saw and appreciated as you were in that cushy job, doing things that were probably beyond the scope of somebody else. Let's put it that way. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
So I was there for 4 years, and when I came into this museum complex, they had 12,000 memberships, pretty flat for the previous 5 years. And 4 years later, when I left, we had 28,000 members. So that was certainly the impetus to another organization saying, "Hey, can you come do that for us?"
Right.
Yeah.
That's one that ties into the book Think and Grow Rich. One of the principles there is do the best job you possibly can, and people will notice. This is me paraphrasing what the law in that book is, and it might get noticed by the organization that you're in, or somebody who's watching you from somewhere else and invite you in to do things because of how you showed up, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's all about how you show up.
Yeah. There's another guy you've probably heard of, Brian Tracy.
Yeah.
I'm affiliated with. And I first met him back in the 80s when I was trying to figure out what I was going to be when I grew up. You talk about the financial trauma recently. In the 80s, mortgage rates were 21% rates, and I was selling new homes. Well, I was trying to sell new homes. People couldn't qualify, right? Anyhow, as Steve Jobs says, you can't join the dots looking forward, but you certainly can do it from where you've come from and connect the dots. And how I got to meet Brian Tracy was I was in the housing industry selling new homes for a company. And they ended up, the short story is they went out of business, not particularly where I was, but they were on that transition. So I got laid off and because they were cutting costs. So I went and sold cars. The sales manager said, "Hey, Jilks, you like this stuff?" And I said, "What stuff's that?" He says, "Personal development." I said, "Yeah, I love that stuff." And because I was on that journey right then and there in my life. And I got a ticket to this Phoenix seminar. And that's why it's one of my favorite subjects. And the Phoenix seminar was one of the, probably the flagship program that Brian Tracy put together that rose, he rose from where he was to become the thought leader he is today. So yeah, it's how you show up. And one of the things he said numerous times is how he became successful was to do kind of stuff you're doing, do more than what you're paid for. And when people give you an opportunity, say yes. He did that a lot. So they were looking for a time management program and he had never done one before. Sorry, Brian, your secret's out. Oh, I think everybody knew it anyway that follows him. And when they asked if they could help him with that, he says, yes, I specialize in it. And then he went away and built the course. And you know what? That's how I've been doing mine. That's why I like the bootstrapping philosophy, because that's kind of a version of bootstrapping, isn't it, Jay?
Absolutely. I am very much a fire, aim type person.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I knew that Randy was going to be here. He's one of my favorites. He pops in a lot. He's going to be on my show on Monday, but he's a road warrior, specializing in roofs and post-form construction. But he's a rock star sales guy, and he over delivers and under promises. In terms of what you're doing now, because you rose from the ashes as a phoenix does, what helped you get through the losing everything and rebuilding yourself?
That's a good question. And if I'm honest, I'm still trying to figure out all the lessons learned. But after the 2008, 2010 financial crisis, I quite literally went from being a multimillionaire living in a mansion to living in my friend's basement without even owning a car. And I'm not proud to say that I spent far too long in that basement, literally for a while, but then figuratively with my mindset. There's a lot of shame when you've spent 20 years as an entrepreneur and you have a very high profile in your community as a leading entrepreneur, and then you have nothing and you're literally trying to survive. There's a lot of shame, and I dwelled in that shame for far too long. So my perspective is a couple of things. One is that when you go through something like that and you lose everything, obviously it changes you as a person. But the first few years after my complete crash and burn was actually easier than the next few years after that, because the first few years after a complete crash like that, you go into survival mode, and literally every day you wake up and, how am I getting out of this basement? Mm-hmm. And you just do everything you can. And that drives you at least to move forward. And then it was actually a few years later that I, hadn't fully recovered, and I was still dealing with some of that mindset or head trash, as I call it. And, I probably hit, further bottom at that point a few years later. And what I came to as my sort of driving force to move forward, because my kids were grown and doing great at that point, and and have that kind of internal motivation. And I just, it wasn't some like big bright light in the sky moment, but I just said, look, I've got to get back to just hanging out with and helping entrepreneurs. That's what I've done for 20 years as an entrepreneur, but also in peer groups and organizations like GLO. And I just need to get back to doing that. So a few years ago, I rehung my shingle as the Profit Architects, got back into consulting and business coaching. And then the Global Leaders Organization came around, which is a global entrepreneurial community. Talk about showing up. So I started just saying I agreed to start the Pittsburgh chapter of that organization. And a short time afterwards, they approached me and said, we'd like to put you on our leadership team and be in charge of finding, recruiting, onboarding, and managing chapter chairs to start chapters of that organization all over the world. So when that piece fell into place, it was like, okay, here I am. Now every day I just hang out with entrepreneurs and help them.
So what I heard there, which is one of the worst things you can say as a coach, I'm getting in the habit of not saying that now that I've already said that, though, is one of the ways that you were able to grab onto something in that downward spiral to stop it and get you back up was to show up, serve, and help others. And when you had that epiphany, or when you hung on to that, that's when you were able to start to stop the free fall, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was totally that desire, knowing that it's a core strength, and that I have all that experience, and let's create something out of that failure and teach others. So, it's funny. I always say, if you're going to hire a business coach, it doesn't have to be me, but make sure you hire one that's failed, because you just learn so much more from the failures than the successes.
Wow, I just went 3,000 different paths. Well, maybe 300. I had a conversation with a partner of mine last night. And we were talking about everybody gets a medal versus you actually lose a game of chess or a game of hockey or whatever it is, a transaction. You feel like shit. You pick yourself back up and carry on, right? Where everybody gets a medal doesn't build the resiliency, which is a natural process for all of us. Anyway, that's another conversation for another show. But I just wanted to say that you're a living example of what Ben, my buddy, and I were talking about last night. It was around something else, but it has that common theme. And when I was coaching girls hockey, the last 3 years of my coaching hockey, we love to win. We learned more in our losses. And we learned a lot of things from coaching the other gender as how they recover from a loss. I remember we're coming back from a road trip, taking the girls to, they're young women. They were like 15 to almost 18. And we lost 4-1 to a team that was below us, but they beat us. And so they got all their gear on the bus, and they're sitting at the back, and we're going to get them fed. And they're all laughing and giggling. When my partner in crime, he reached over and he says, "Did we win 4-1? So how they manage the losses, right? They don't like losing, but they didn't dwell on it, which is quite different than when I was coaching the male side of things. It's interesting how different people manage adversity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another fellow I'm affiliated with, he started his coaching business, which is a global entity. And his MO is that his brother took his life. He's suicide over a business deal gone south. He lost everything and he couldn't handle it. So Carl is on a mission to, and he touts this all the time, as business coaches, we're often in the business of saving lives and saving marriages in many cases, right? Because being an entrepreneur, if you want an easy thing to do, don't become an entrepreneur. If you want to know who you is, become an entrepreneur, right?
That's a huge reason that I have I advocate for, and I've been involved in entrepreneur peer groups over the last 25 years, which is an integral part of Global Leaders Organization, GLO. Getting together every single month with a group of 9 to 10 other entrepreneurs for a 3 or 4 hour meeting with the sole purpose of helping each other grow your businesses and become better entrepreneurs. And I, unequivocally say that that is the best learning that I've ever had, far better than books, conferences, speakers, trainings, courses. You just hang out with other entrepreneurs regularly and learn from them and their mistakes and their questions. I mean, when I'm in those peer group meetings, almost every single month that I'm in one of those meetings, and I've been in many of these groups over 25 years, there's always a question that another entrepreneur asks, and I think, wow, I wouldn't have even thought to ask that question, because they're in a different industry, with different experience. It just comes out, it's out of the box thinking, which is what entrepreneurs are best at. and just be able to ask those challenging questions. So.
Yeah, I'm going back to that same book, Think and Grow Rich. And the book is a roadmap. You need to get off your tuchus and act and meet and do what you're talking about. And it's the mastermind principle. It's been thrown around a lot lately in our market. It's the new hottest word. Some of them are really good and some of them are not so good. But what I like about the principle of the masterminds is just what you said. You don't know what you're going to learn by somebody else being there. See, with you and I right now, in a minuscule sort of way, are in our own mastermind for 30 minutes ish. And you're reminding me about things I'd forgotten about, and churning all that up in a good way, right? And I like the idea of people getting together, like-minded people getting together for a similar reason through however you want to call it. The underlying principle, though, is the mastermind principle.
Yeah,
it's powerful.
It is, and entrepreneurship is a lonely experience. There's things that you just can't talk to. Sometimes your family, sometimes even your spouse. You don't want to, as an entrepreneur, come home and to your spouse or significant other, and they say, "How was your day today?" And you can't really blurt out like, well, if I don't find some cash here in the next 2 weeks to meet payroll, the whole thing's going to be crashing down. We're going to lose the house and everything else we own. You don't want to pass those fears that we all have as entrepreneurs on to our friends, our family, and associates. So having that group of entrepreneurs that you can reach out to in times like that and say, what do I do? I need some cash in the next 2 weeks or I'm going down. It's invaluable.
And yeah, I like the fact that you brought up, you can't really talk to your family. I'm thinking of my family. Most of them are entrepreneurial. They took the other path. And when I talk about what I do, they don't get it. So I don't talk about what I do. Sad, right? Hope they're not listening. If they are, then maybe we should talk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is raw. There's no edit button on this. This is whatever we've said it's there. I really do like the mastermind principle, and whether it's with your organization GLO or some other place, because there's a lot of really good ones out there. And kind of like you said, don't hire a coach if they've never had any failures. They don't even have to know your business, but they need to have had some adversity that they've actually gone through. So the reason I like the Phoenix is I think I've done it, maybe not as many times as you, but I've done it a couple of times, gone from hero to zero, and then again done that again, and many times through bootstrapping.
Yeah.
I want to share some content about you a little bit here. I'm just going to click on this. I'm going to show your Profit Architects one first, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
There it is. Add $100,000 in profits to your business, guaranteed. That's a bold claim. I like it, though.
Yeah. So the reason I focus on profits in the first place, and this is where the today's talk title comes from, is that so for my personal experience, my first company that I created, I got to 50 employees, and my ego was pretty large. I got to 5 million in sales, and I kind of thought I was a hot shot, but I still wasn't making any money. I was barely making six figures. I hadn't had a vacation in 5 years. The business was working me and killing me. I was certainly the furthest thing away from that dream entrepreneurial lifestyle that we all think that we're going to achieve when we start a business. And it get into, I think it's very common for most entrepreneurs, especially in their first business, to get into that kind of growth rut where, and in the very beginning, you have to be there. It has to be about more leads, more clients, more revenue. But then that creates more problems, more headaches, more overhead. And getting out of that growth rut is what I try to do in helping mid 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs learn how to scale their business and how to create profit within the business. And, because I know this show's about mindset. There's so many mindset issues for not all, but some entrepreneurs, aren't even comfortable with the idea of profit. It's like, well, I started my business to serve people and help people and, make the world a better place. But the thing about profit is that profit is not just about money you put in your pocket. Profit can be about reinvesting in your business to grow it. It can, sure, you can take that fancy vacation you've never had with profit. But the main thing is that, you talk about exit strategy, which I didn't even know what that term meant until I started hanging out with other entrepreneurs. You're not going to ever sell a business, with some exceptions. If you're in certain SaaS environments or some hot new thing, you're not going to sell a business without profit. Nobody buys your business for your customers or your growth potential. They buy it for the profit that you're generating. And that's, also key to that ability to get out of that growth rut and scale. So, my $100,000 program, obviously I'm selective about who gets into that. And that's it's a 12-month commitment and that kind of thing. But I guarantee $100,000 in additional profit above my fees during that time, or I'll keep working with the entrepreneur until they're satisfied we've achieved that.
Yeah. I believe that you can do that. The reason being, because I've done it myself with my own clients. If I'm going to say something on the air here and people are going to go BS, and which is the other BS, because I have this other BS, which I believe you and I are in the BS business, by the way. Believe it before you see it. That's the business I'm in. And that's what I think you help people do to get their $100,000 profit, right? But I have a process I go through can help find $100,000 of hidden potential in any business, guaranteed, in 45 minutes or less. And that's when the BS meter goes up. And I said, well, if it's BS, let's set up a session and call me out on it. And if I don't find it, then no harm, no foul. Then you can see I'm a liar. But if we do find it, what would you do with it? Anyway, so to me, I think that's totally possible. I help the client go, he's an engineer by profession. So he provided the numbers, 7,500% increase in revenue, not profit, but his margins are really high. So it was quite a lot of it was profit in 10 months. So anything's possible. Everything's not. So that number doesn't shock me, but it might shock some of our viewers. But it is possible.
It's all relative. I mean, I've had people see my website and they'll reach out to me and say, I made 100,000 profit last month. Like, yeah, right. That's not that attractive to me that you're saying. It's like, I get it. I'm not here to only make $100,000 in profit. Let's make a lot more.
Yeah. It has to be something that people can sort of grab onto.
Yeah.
And have a conversation and see what you and I bring to the table for people. And you said mindset, and my branding is about mental fitness, which is part of mindset. But why we talk mental fitness is just like we work a bicep, we can work this to be more effective in serving us. We have 10 saboteurs and 5 sages, and if we can quiet the saboteurs down, we can look at life with optimism and positivity versus doom and gloom. That's there if you choose to focus on it. It's also possibilities are there if you choose to look at them. So one of the things we do in our organization is to help support people to find their own way to develop their mental fitness so that they can diffuse and minimize the times their saboteurs come up and hold them ransom. We all have them. They don't ever go away, but we can quiet them down and get them out of our way. Anyway, that's another topic for another day. I also want to go and give you a plug for your other place, which you've talked about a few times, and it's right here. And let me bring it up. There we go.
So Global Leaders Organization is a relatively new entrepreneurial community. We are modeled after some other very successful global entrepreneurial communities, EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, YPO, Young Presidents Organization, which have been around for decades and have tens of thousands of members worldwide. So we've modeled our organization after those successful models. We offer everything that they do, which primarily is we set up chapters in major markets around the world. The chapter runs monthly meetings where we bring in business speakers, so that it's not just like a BNI networking type thing, but we bring in business speakers, and you make meaningful connections with other entrepreneurs in your local community. And then we form the forum peer mastermind groups within each chapter, and that's the group of 9 to 10 entrepreneurs that get together every month. And then in GLO's case, we also have a complete digital dashboard that has a member marketplace. We have a deal network. And one of our unique differentiators is that we have our own capital platform. So we have a network of 800 to 1,000 investors that are looking to work with small businesses on a debt or equity basis. So our intention with GLO is to be more inclusive than those other O organizations. So our criteria to get into GLO is lower, and our price point's lower as well. And that's because we want to build a very large network of global entrepreneurs. That's partly possible because we have global partners like Microsoft and Deloitte. We have access to very high-powered business speakers. I obviously mentioned at the beginning of the show that we have Elon Musk coming for our first GLO Summit in the fall, first in-person conference. And so, it's a great organization. We started just before COVID. So right now we have 13 chapters, 2 in Canada, 1 in Mexico, and the rest are scattered around the US. But we're ready now that things are kind of open back up for in-person meetings. We are, rapidly and aggressively expanding and looking for people to start chapters literally around the globe. And that's my job. And the chapter chair profile is someone who's going to benefit themselves and with their own businesses from kind of immediately catapulting themselves to the top of the local or regional entrepreneurial community by being a GLO chair. And there is remuneration for chairs. It's not something you're going to get rich and retire on, but you can certainly, make a few bucks and have money to build your chapter and get things going. So the exposure you get as GLO chair and the networking is really not comparable to just about anything else that's out there. So it's a great organization. And like I said, it fulfills my mission of getting to hang out with and help entrepreneurs every single day.
Wow. And it sounds like it's more impactful than the business renovator. How can that be? Yeah, that's cool. Cool. Would there be one nugget that you'd like to leave the viewers that are watching now or in a replay today?
I'll just say that in terms of profit, there's core throughout all of my 30 years of experience has been my core strength is sales and marketing. As a 9-time entrepreneur, I've worn every hat that an entrepreneur needs to wear, but my core strength is always sales and marketing. And so I kind of always say that in terms of creating more profit for your business, there's really three things you can do. One is get in front of more people. 2 is get better at converting the people you end up in front of, and that's the sales and sales conversation part of it. And the other is pricing. If you can raise pricing without losing customers and market share, that adds profit right to the bottom line. So I always say I help with 2 of those 3. My expertise is not necessarily, although I can help you a little, my expertise and focus is not on the getting in front of more people. It's more along the lines of converting more people that you're already in front of. And that's the thing I also find surprising with entrepreneurs is if you ask most entrepreneurs their statistics for what, their sales or marketing funnel, they can cite them off the top of their head. They know they get this many visits and this percent opt in and this percent get to this point in the funnel and this percent. But then you ask, so how many, when you get at the end, you get the one-on-one sales call, how many out of 10 of those conversations do you convert? And then it's like, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4. They don't track that. And I'm like, well, that means you're losing 7 out of 10 out of the bottom of your funnel. Your funnel's leaking. Let's work on that.
Yeah. Good advice. Hey, you know what? Thank you for being here and sharing some wisdom and being vulnerable at the beginning and telling us a little bit about your real journey. I appreciate that. We like to be authentic with our guests and myself on the Business Renovator, so people can take something from what we bring to them in a short bit of time, that maybe there's one piece of the puzzle that can change their kaleidoscope and see things a little bit different. So Jay, appreciate your time here and your wisdom. Thanks, man.
Happy to be here, Phil. Thank you.
Well, I learned a bunch of things and I wrote a couple of them down. So serve and help others first, the mastermind principle, get in front of more people. But I think he also means strategically, not just more people in general, but more people that make sense for you to connect with it, maybe have a similar value, and strategic pricing. And I didn't write this one down, but profit. It's not a dirty word. So that's what I got out of today. As always, I want to remind everybody about this. I just got to go find it. There it is right there. I want you to be wonderful, like the you in wonderful, like you really already are. You're unique in your self, and you're also wonderful. So go out and continue being your wonderful self. Until next time on the Business Renovator, I'll still be Coach Phil, but we'll have new guests for the next show. So we'll see you then.
I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.